Okay, let's just dive right in. Do you have free will? I mean, are you really in control? Or is everything you think and do just predetermined? It's a massive question, right? But what if the answer is hiding somewhere you'd never think to look? Today, we're going to explore this really powerful idea that your greatest freedom, the thing that makes you you, doesn't come from your actions at all. It comes from your imagination.
All right, so let's get right to the big challenge, the elephant in the room. A lot of really popular scientific thinkers, people like Sam Harris, they put forward this pretty stark idea. They argue that if you look at us from a purely physical, scientific perspective, you're basically a puppet. Yeah, a biochemical puppet. Your thoughts, what you want, the choices you make, it all just boils down to chemical reactions and electrical zaps in your brain, all just following the unchangeable laws of physics.
I mean, that's a powerful idea, and honestly, it's kind of a downer, right? Super demoralizing. But is that really the whole story? Are you and I just a bunch of fancy algorithms with absolutely no real say in what happens? Well, let's push back on that. Let's challenge that idea.
And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophical debate you have late at night. No, this idea of being a biochemical puppet has a real, profound, and sometimes, well, devastating impact on people's lives. For some, it's a source of genuine despair.
You hear this idea from some really big thinkers like Yuval Noah Harari and Robert Sapolsky, this idea that we're all just complex machines, algorithms. And for a lot of people, hearing that can lead to this deep feeling of helplessness, even depression. And that's actually why we're talking about this. The whole argument we're digging into today was pretty much written for anyone who has ever felt that despair and is looking for a different, more hopeful way to see things.
So, the big question is, how do we cut those puppet strings? How do we break free? Well, the answer, it turns out, might just be our most unique human superpower, our imagination. And I'm not talking about daydreaming or fantasy here. We're talking about the very engine that powers our freedom.
Okay, to really get this, we've got to understand what makes our minds so different. Think of it in 3 steps. Animals, they've got the first 2 down. They have sensory consciousness. They see, hear, and feel the world as it is. And they have working memory. They can remember concrete things, like where a ball just landed in the bushes. But we humans, we evolved this incredible 3rd domain, imagination. The ability to think about things that aren't real at all, to picture what might be, what could have been, even the totally impossible.
Here's a great way to think about this evolutionary leap. Picture this. A lion walks past some hoof prints in the dirt. To the lion, they're nothing. They don't look or smell like food, so it just moves on. But now imagine an early human hunter, seeing those exact same tracks. They don't just see marks in the dirt, they imagine a whole story. Where was this herd going? How long ago were they here? Was one of them limping? See, our minds can literally make the invisible visible. And that, right there, is the fundamental difference. Okay, so we've established we have this incredible imagination. Big deal, right? How does that actually translate into free will? Like, how can a thought, just a simple idea in your head, actually change what happens out here, in the physical world? Well, the secret is all about how our imagination shapes what we want. And this is the crucial part. It's our ability to have what philosophers call second-order desires. It sounds complicated, but it's not. An animal has first-order desires. Simple stuff. I'm hungry. I want food. But a human can have a second-order desire. We can say, you know what? I want to be the kind of person who wants to eat healthy. We can actually imagine a future version of ourselves and then start making choices right now to become that person. That's a game changer.
Now, you might be thinking, isn't this just magic? How does a thought break the laws of physics? But it doesn't. The idea is something called criterial causation. Think of your mind less like a physical force pushing atoms around and more like a filter. Your imagined goals, your values, they set the criteria for what you're going to do. Out of all the possible physical things your body could do, your mind filters them down and selects the path that aligns with your imagined future. It's not magic at all, it's just selection.
But, and this is a big but, this incredible superpower of ours, this imagination, it's totally a double-edged sword. It can be the source of our absolute greatest strength, or it can be the thing that creates our deepest, darkest anxieties.
The philosopher Montaigne just nailed it when he said this. Think about it. Our imagination can make us suffer, like really suffer, from things that aren't even real.
Our brains can kick off a full-blown physical stress response, pounding heart, sweaty palms, the whole deal, to a threat that is purely imagined. This can lead to chronic anxiety and a constant fear of futures that probably will never, ever happen.
But just as our imagination can build a prison of fear, it can also forge the key to our freedom. And there is no more powerful example of this than Viktor Frankl. He was a psychiatrist who survived the horrors of the Nazi concentration camps, and he realized something absolutely profound, that no matter how awful the things happening to you are, that's the stimulus, there's always this tiny little space before you react. And in that space, that's where your power is. That's where you get to choose.
Frankl noticed that the people who survived weren't always the strongest physically. They were the ones who had a reason to live, a why. For him, that why was an imagined future, a future where he was reunited with his loved ones, where he could finish his life's work. That goal, which existed only in his mind, gave him the meaning and the strength to get through a reality that was, for most people, completely unendurable.
So what Frankl's story really shows us is that meaning isn't something you just find lying around. It's something you have to create. And this is so important today, because modern science has done an incredible job of explaining what the universe is made of. But in doing so, it's kind of left a lot of us feeling adrift, floating in what some people call a vacuum of meaning.
And this vacuum of meaning, it's not just a philosophical idea, it has devastating real-world consequences. Some sociologists look at a chart like this, at the absolutely staggering rise in drug overdose deaths, and they see a tragic symptom of this crisis of meaning. When people really start to feel like they're just puppets in a universe without purpose, well, despair can take hold in the most terrible ways. So what do we do about it? Well, the philosopher William James, he faced this exact crisis head-on. He fell into this deep, dark depression, completely paralyzed by the scientific idea that everything was predetermined. And his way out was this incredible radical choice. He literally wrote it down in his diary. He decided that his very first act of free will would be to believe in free will.
And that brings us to a realization that's pretty stark, but I think it's also incredibly empowering. Here it is. If you are waiting for the universe to hand you a script, to give you a purpose, you're going to be waiting a long time. It's just not there. But here's the twist. The fact that there's no pre-written purpose for you, that isn't a curse. It's the ultimate freedom. It means the universe isn't a script you're forced to act out. It's a blank canvas. That very same meaninglessness that can feel so terrifying is actually the one thing that makes it possible for you to be truly, absolutely free.
So, it all comes back to you. The power is yours. You are not a puppet. You are an artist. And you're standing in front of a completely blank canvas, holding the most powerful tool in the entire known universe, your own free imagination. So now, the only question left, the only one that really truly matters, is this. What are you going to choose to create?